Section 830 of the Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform and Consumer Protection Act is all about the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, often called the CFPB. This section is the cornerstone for establishing the CFPB and outlines its powers, duties, and responsibilities. The Dodd-Frank Act, in general, was a response to the 2008 financial crisis, aiming to prevent future crises by increasing regulation of the financial industry. Section 830 specifically addresses the need for a dedicated agency focused on protecting consumers in the financial marketplace. The CFPB's primary purpose is to regulate the offering and provision of consumer financial products and services under the federal consumer financial laws. This means it has broad oversight over various entities, including banks, credit unions, mortgage lenders, payday lenders, and other financial companies. The CFPB aims to ensure that these entities operate fairly and transparently, preventing deceptive or abusive practices. Section 830 details the structure and organization of the CFPB. It establishes the position of director, who serves as the head of the agency and is responsible for its overall management and direction. The director is appointed by the President and confirmed by the Senate, serving a fixed term. This is intended to provide the director with a degree of independence from political pressure. The CFPB is structured as an independent bureau within the Federal Reserve System, but it operates autonomously. It has its own budget, which is funded through transfers from the Federal Reserve, and it is not subject to the appropriations process of Congress. This financial independence is designed to further protect the CFPB from political interference. Section 830 also outlines the specific powers and authorities of the CFPB. Firstly, the CFPB has the authority to supervise and examine financial institutions to ensure compliance with federal consumer financial laws. This includes the power to conduct on-site examinations of banks and other financial companies, review their records, and interview their employees. Secondly, the CFPB can issue regulations and guidance to clarify and interpret federal consumer financial laws. These regulations have the force of law and must be followed by the entities subject to the CFPB's jurisdiction. Thirdly, the CFPB has the power to enforce federal consumer financial laws through administrative and judicial proceedings. This includes the authority to issue cease and desist orders, impose civil penalties, and require restitution to consumers who have been harmed by violations of the law. Fourthly, the CFPB is responsible for educating consumers about financial products and services. It develops and disseminates educational materials, conducts outreach programs, and provides consumers with information to help them make informed financial decisions. Fifthly, the CFPB has the authority to collect and analyze data on consumer financial markets. This data is used to identify trends, assess risks, and inform the CFPB's regulatory and enforcement activities. Sixthly, the CFPB is required to coordinate with other federal and state agencies to ensure effective regulation of the financial industry. This includes sharing information, conducting joint investigations, and working together to address common challenges. Section 830 also addresses the relationship between the CFPB and state regulators. It preserves the authority of state attorneys general and state regulators to enforce state consumer financial laws. However, it also establishes a system for coordinating enforcement actions between the CFPB and state authorities to avoid duplication and ensure consistent application of the law. The CFPB's activities are subject to certain limitations and oversight. Firstly, the CFPB is required to conduct cost-benefit analyses of its regulations to ensure that the benefits of the regulations outweigh the costs. Secondly, the CFPB is subject to review by the Financial Stability Oversight Council, which can set aside CFPB regulations if they are deemed to pose a risk to the financial stability of the United States. Thirdly, the CFPB is required to report regularly to Congress on its activities and performance. These reports provide Congress with an opportunity to oversee the CFPB and ensure that it is fulfilling its mandate. Section 830 has had a significant impact on the financial industry and on consumers. The CFPB has issued numerous regulations and enforcement actions that have changed the way financial companies operate. These regulations have addressed a wide range of issues, including mortgage lending, credit cards, payday lending, and debt collection. The CFPB has also taken enforcement actions against companies that have engaged in deceptive or abusive practices, resulting in billions of dollars in restitution to consumers. While the CFPB has been praised by consumer advocates for its efforts to protect consumers, it has also been criticized by some in the financial industry for its regulatory burden and its enforcement tactics. Some critics argue that the CFPB's regulations are too complex and costly, and that they stifle innovation and competition in the financial marketplace. Others argue that the CFPB's enforcement actions are too aggressive and that they are based on subjective interpretations of the law. The Dodd-Frank Act and Section 830 specifically have been the subject of ongoing debate and reform efforts. Some lawmakers have proposed changes to the CFPB's structure, powers, and funding. These proposals have ranged from abolishing the CFPB altogether to making more modest changes to its operations. The future of the CFPB and its role in regulating the financial industry remains uncertain. It is likely that there will continue to be ongoing debates and reform efforts related to the agency. The CFPB's impact on consumers and the financial industry will continue to be a subject of discussion and analysis.